Okay, so before going to the nitty-gritty of building a CV, let's talk about some basics. What is CV? The word CV comes from curriculum vitae. So this is translated from Latin. It means the course of one's life. So that means whatever you have done, it's going to be there. But what is important academically, it's going to be there. So it's a complete summary and it highlights your qualification. It's a dynamic document. It grows with you. As more degrees you obtain, more research you do, more teaching experience or volunteering you have, the CV will grow with you. And it's not as the same as resume. I can't believe how much people mix those two together. CV, it's not a resume. Resume is a shorter document when compared to CV, and there are some differences which we're going to talk about. So let's talk why CV is not a resume. So CV, you use it when you apply to medical residency, when you apply to an observership, when you apply to an elective, when you apply to an academic position. Resume, you use it when you apply to a job. So each one of them has a different function, right? The length. The basic CV usually is between 3 to 5 pages. The resume is usually 1 to 2 pages, and it's very short because it's directed toward the job. CV can be up to 10 to 20 to 15 pages. It depends on how much research, how much teaching, and how much academically active you are. CV is comprehensive and it's cumulative. Its sections are like many, which we're going to see. The resume, the sections of the resume are targeted toward the job, and the description of the activities in the resume are much shorter, and everything in the resume is targeted toward the job that you're applying to. The CV, usually it is targeted, but it's not as the resume. So CV, it's not resume. CV, it's a longer. And CV does not start with a highlighting your skills in the beginning. It's a paragraph that people add, highlight your skills. So that's a resume, which is different from a CV. CV has many sections: achievements, education and degree, work experience, teaching experience, leadership, publications and research, awards, grants and honors, hobbies, languages, memberships, many sections, which we're going to talk about in details. The resume, usually it's a summary. It starts with a statement, highlight your skills, your accomplishments, some volunteer work. It's shorter, it's directed toward the job. CV is directed toward medical positions, residency, and academic positions. When do you start writing your CV? As soon as possible. Once you are in Canada, you should start writing your CV. It's much easier to start building your CV once you arrive and you're preparing for your CaRMS, rather than like waiting until CaRMS comes and within a week you're going to write your CV. And I get so much overwhelmed when it is like CaRMS time and people want to submit their CV. I get like hundreds of CVs to be reviewed, and that's when like I just stop receiving emails, because like I can't do a lot because like each CV takes time. And we work here in CanMD Medical Consulting. We work in a team. So each CV should go through a rigorous process. It should be reviewed by 2 people. It should be run by a grammar application, checking its grammar, checking for plagiarism. So as soon as you arrive in Canada and you start doing volunteer activities, clinical experience, start building your CV. And I'm going to show you how. Okay? So let's keep moving. Where you can use your CV and why you're going to start your CV as soon as you arrive to Canada. So you use your CV for CaRMS, but you can also use it for observership and electives. When you email people asking them for observership or electives, okay, so you're going to send your CV, you're going to attach your CV. You can add your CV to your LinkedIn profile. You can use your CV when you do a research application. Let's say you're a newcomer here and you want to start a research position. So you do Google search, research assisted jobs, and you find some research assistant opportunities, and you need to apply to this position. Usually you need a CV, unless they are asking for a resume. Your master's application, lots of people do masters before their residency. You need a CV for your masters. Then, after residency, you might apply to academic positions, so you need a CV as well. So the CV will grow with you. So that's why in this course, I will teach you how to create a basic CV that you can add to it in the future. Okay? You can use your CV when you apply for a volunteering position. You can use your CV when you apply for scholarships. There are some organizations that give bursaries and money to help you to continue your education. So you can use your CV when you apply for those scholarships. When you apply for a fellowship, you still need a CV. When you apply to a society like a Canadian Society of Internal Medicine, I think you need a CV. Or like Canadian Medical Association, you might need a CV. So so the CV, it's a very essential component of who you are, and it is really important to be used in academia. Okay, but on top of that, I want to also talk about the CanMed roles. What are the CanMed roles? If you don't know about them, you can either search CanMed and you go to the Royal College website and read about the CanMed roles, or you can go and watch my US and Canadian residency interview course. I have a complete section about the CanMed roles. I explain the CanMed roles in a very simple English language. So what are the CanMed roles? The CanMed roles are a group of skills. It's a framework that a physician, or the skills that a physician should have to practice medicine in Canada. So when you are a physician in Canada, you should have those skills or those qualities. For example, you should be professional with your patients. You should respect them and they should respect you back. You should be a good communicator, not only with your patients, but also with other healthcare providers like diabetic nurse educator, like a dietitian, like a specialist. You should be collaborator. You should learn how to work in a team of like other residents or other physicians. You should be a leader. You should step up and take responsibility and lead a team of junior learners or lead a team of other healthcare workers to take care of patients. You should advocate for your patients. If you see a patient who is being underserved for some reason, or if you have a patient who is not getting the right treatment, you should advocate for them. That person should get that treatment. You should also be a scholar. You should keep yourself up, your knowledge updated and up to date. So you know what's going on with the recent literature. And eventually when you do all this, you become a medical expert. And the goal is in residency to teach you how to do all this to become finally a medical expert. You can go to the Royal College website, or you can look at my course and I explain the CanMed roles in very nice, simple English language. Okay, so why you have to understand the CanMed roles when you write your CV? Because you are going to use words from the CanMed roles in your CV, as we're going to see in a couple of slides. And then your CV should be targeted. This is also important. You just don't write your CV and you add lines here and there and you add descriptions here and there. No. Before you write your CV, you have to do some research. You have to go to the CaRMS website and read program description. Ask yourself, what are the program directors are looking for? Some universities really like research. Some residencies really like research. Some, they are neutral towards research. They like research, but they might put more emphasis on your clinical experience. Okay? So you can find all this in the CaRMS website or the ERAS. The ERAS is for people who are applying in the US, and this does not apply for people who are applying for a residency in the US, because in the US they don't use CV. The ERAS application itself, it has the same sections. In Canada, we still have to submit CV and we have to fill the CaRMS application. So that being said, you go to the CaRMS website and you read the program descriptions and you ask yourself, what are they looking for? The program directors are usually looking for a person who have a relevant experience and the skills, who can do the job. For example, if you did, let's say, I don't know, like general surgery, and you're applying to family medicine, and all your rotations are in general surgery, even here in Canada, all your observerships, all your research is in general surgery, it's very hard sell to tell the program director or to tell the accepting committee that you want family medicine. So first, your CV should be tailored toward that position, and your experience should be tailored toward that position. Next, they are looking for a person who's enthusiastic about the job, and this usually comes through your interview. And then they are looking for a person who can fit the team, and this also comes through the interview. For more details about the interview, you can check my course. Okay, now let's talk more about basics. When you are going to write your CV, let's say you're going to write the education paragraph. Everything should be in reverse chronological order. First, it should be the most recent, and then it should be the education that you did before that, and going forward. Always you have to write events in your CV in a reverse chronological order, and I will show you how in a couple of slides when we start structuring our CV together. CV have no page limit. Don't be shy. If you have hundreds of research articles, go for it. You have to put them there. But also, don't include things that happened 20 years ago. Okay? Usually, it's nice to include events that happened in the last 5 years that are relevant to your residency. Max, you can go up to 10 years if you did something that is relevant to your residency and show some skills. Like let's say 8 years ago, you led a non-profit organization and you made a huge difference in your community. So that's something you should mention, right? But let's say 7, 8 years ago, you did an observership in the US, for example, for family medicine. That's not helpful a lot, because like lots of things change in 7 years. Okay, so how to put the sections together? There are some sections that are usually basic, they don't change. For example, your name, your education, your medical exams. And then after that, you're going to tailor the sections based on your strengths and based on what the program is looking for. And again, if you feel like you're not understanding what's going on, when we talk about the section, we will build a CV together. I will give you in details how to organize those different sections of the CV. Be consistent, be consistent, be consistent. I can't emphasize this enough. When you build your CV, I see lots of sometimes some people use 2 different or 3 different or sometimes 5 different fonts in the same CV. No, you should only stick to one font. You should be consistent if you're going to bold the first line of each paragraph, like the headings. So all the headings should be bold. If you're not going to bold them, you're going to make like a bigger font size. Go for it, but you should be consistent. Be consistent with the margins on the side of the page. Be consistent in the spacing before and after each paragraph. We will go through this in details. Okay? And be consistent in the size of the font and the shape of the font, as I said. And usually Times New Roman or Calibri or Georgia, those are like fonts that are usually used in CV. They are professional and they are easy to read. So the headings in your CV are the eye directors. So make sure you use bold font, larger font, or capital letters in your headings. And again, we will show you how you're going to do that in a couple of minutes. Okay? And use your words wisely. There is no such thing worse than a CV that is like 20 pages and all it has very extensive description of clinical experience. People tend to write hundreds of paragraphs, sometimes of lines describing a clinical experience, and that takes a huge space of the CV and makes it so hard for the person who is reading the CV. Put yourself in the shoes of the person who's reviewing the CV. Each year for programs in Canada, there are hundreds of applicants. So from those hundreds of applicants, the committee will choose some people to interview. So they have to go through hundreds of CV, and they don't usually have time. Each CV has, I don't know, sometimes like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So it should be simple, it should be nice, it should be easy to read, and it should be like you should help the person who is reading your CV to find the important information easily. So use your words wisely, and don't think by adding many lines and many paragraphs describing extensively a clinical experience or a research or a volunteering will make a difference. Usually 2 to 3, maximum 5 lines of description for each activity is more than enough, and we're going to talk about that. Now, let's talk about descriptions. So, as I said earlier, in the CV, there are different sections. For example, teaching, leadership, clinical experience, research, volunteering. Usually, when you write an event, or like teaching or let's say volunteering, you can add a couple of lines of descriptions. And we're going to talk how you're going to write these paragraphs. Okay? So, let's start. When you write a description of an activity, ask yourself, what skills or which skills did you develop? Are these skills related to the CANMED roles, which we're going to talk about in details? Are this, or what were your responsibilities? Did you get promoted during this experience? Or did you solve a problem? Let's say you work in an underserved area and population and you raised awareness for mental health. Or you provided oral contraceptive pills and you raised awareness for family planning. What were the results? If you were the leader of an organization and you helped to increase the number of patients that this organization helped. So make sure to add those numbers in the description of that CV. Can you quantify the results? As I said, so this is similar. Okay. Did you develop new skills? Did you learn, for example, if you did internal medicine rotation and you learn how to use the point of care ultrasound? So that's something nice to mention in the description of your rotation. Did you end up publishing if you were doing a research? Is it a research experience? Is it something that ended up with just gaining the skills of data gathering and doing literature review? Or is it something that ended up with publishing a paper? So that's something you have to add to the description for your research. Okay? Did you meet deadlines? Let's say you were helping in a recent project and there were like strict deadlines and you were able to meet all those deadlines, right? So did you collect information? If you were doing a research project, were you able to collect data, and what did you learn from this process? Or let's say you were a physician assistant and you learned how to use electronic medical records. So those are important skills to add them to the description. Did you make an important decision? Let's say you were a physician assistant and you helped the physician that you are working with not only taking history but also suggesting treatment plan, suggesting a workup. So you help with important decision. This is something you can add to the clinical experience description. Okay? Did you work in an underserved area? If you came here in Canada, let's say, and you volunteered in like to help homeless people or to help people in rural areas, so this is something nice to add. Or did you did rotation specifically in rural areas, right? So you help these areas of the community. So this is something to add to the description. So as we can see, when you write the description, always think, what did you learn? What were the results? Can you quantify those results? And are these skills something that will help you in the residency? Or is this something that a program director will look for when they are looking for the CV? So those are important questions to ask yourself.